Crickellectuals, welcome back to another free hit where we give you a quick and clean update on what's happening in the world of Pakistan cricket. We're going to be sharing a couple of stories about Babar Azam, followed by an update on Shaheen Shah Afridi, and the ongoing controversial conversation about Ramiz Raja, and ending with a quick look on Pakistan's cricket calendar for the rest of the year. So Babar Azam is in the news for pretty good reasons, mostly, starting with the ICC rankings. Firstly, Babar secured the #1 spot in the ICC One-Day International Batters rankings. But impressively, he also moved to the number 15 spot in the all-time ICC One-Day Internationals rankings. And in doing so, he passed the likes of the great Sachin Tendulkar, which is really impressive given that Babar is so young, both in age, but also in terms of just his cricketing age. And all of this was a result of the back-to-back centuries he scored against Australia in the home series that just ended. Now on to the not so good news about Babar Azam. It didn't attract a lot of attention, but Babar Azam posted a photo of him in a sponsorship deal with a video game publisher. And the video game we're talking about is called Free Fire. It's like a mobile shooting battle royale kind of a game. And Babar posted some photos from the photo shoot that they were having for this video game advert. And in it, he's holding like an AR-15, a gun, and he's posing with the gun in like a black and white photo. And there's another photo of him and Shadab Khan both holding guns in an advertisement for the game. And interestingly, it's not a big deal in Pakistan, but the Pakistani fans that grew up or are in the West where the gun culture is largely looked down upon, this was a problem. And a lot of people were commenting on the photos about this is not looking good, that you're promoting guns and violence in extension with the idea that you're holding a gun. And it's an interesting point. In Pakistan, for example, guns don't seem to have that bad of a reputation. In the Western countries, lately, there has been a lot of debate about gun laws and people's ability to own certain types of guns and all of the violence that is caused in relation or with guns. And a lot of people blame that on the guns and the ease with which people can obtain guns. So it's a whole political, very divided and divisive topic that is an ongoing conversation in, for example, the United States. But in contrast, in Pakistan, growing up there, I remember guns were part of a culture and were kind of looked at as an instrument of celebration where there were, gunfire, air fire, for example, that would happen at weddings and still does. I would have friends that would visit Pakistan and come back to the United States with photos of them holding shotguns and all types of, AK-47s, et cetera, as kind of like a funny thing that they got to do that they would never, ever be able to do in the United States. So it was like a fun game and people didn't really look at guns as a big political debate. But lately in Pakistan also, there has been conversation about gun violence in particular. There has been an increase in gun violence in major cities. So Babar Azam and Shadab Khan posing with guns like that, some people felt was not sending a positive message to the young people, young children who look up to these players in Pakistan. Where I personally stand on this, I do think this was a misfire, if I were to use the term, from Babar's camp. And in my view, it wasn't a smart idea to be associated with anything that involves weapons or any other controversial thing. I think that's, as a player, as an international player, a well-recognized name around the world now, world's best ODI batter. You want to stay away from things like that. I think Babar was ill-advised to take this sponsorship / advert deal. And the position that he is in now, he really does have to think twice about who he is associating himself with, because he is now a brand, a big Pakistani brand, and whoever he associates with is going to have some strings attached. And you have to be aware of those strings because you are now a role model. And there are a lot of expectations around ethical behavior from Babar Azam. So he has to really be educated on all of these topics, all of these things, especially controversial issues. I would have no problem with him taking a stand, and if he's pro guns, for example, that he would take that stand and represent that's fine, but not being clear about that stance and then just randomly showing up in an advertisement holding a gun, that it requires an explanation when it's coming from a person with the amount of social capital that Babar Azam enjoys. So whatever his stance is about a particular thing, he would have to take that stand publicly, and then it becomes less surprising. And then people are more likely to accept you doing what you're doing because you're just being yourself. But in this case, most people are surprised to see Babar holding guns and posing with them and glorifying them, which is how most people would interpret the photos that he had. And the photos are still up on his Instagram account. So if you want to go check it out, you can go check it out and then let us know how you feel about it. And story number 2 involves Shaheen Shah Afridi. We were talking about records, how Babar ended up on the top and in the top 15 of the all-time ICC ODI rankings. For Shaheen Shah Afridi, he has landed a spot in the top 10 across all formats of the game. In one-day internationals, he holds the number 7 position, the 7th best bowler. In test matches, he's the 4th best bowler. And in T20 internationals, he is the 10th best bowler. So great news for Shaheen Shah Afridi. He's had a great end of the year 2021 and a great beginning of the year 2022. And we hope to continue to see him shine. Speaking of shining, a couple of our players are out there playing English cricket. Haris Rauf is one, mohammadrizwan is another. Rizwan, I believe, is playing for Sussex. Haris is playing for Yorkshire. And although Rizwan just had an ordinary sort of a debut, Haris performed really well in his. So great to see 2 Pakistani stars out there performing, learning, networking, and enjoying cricket at the same time. It's great. Next up, let's look at Pakistan's schedule for the 2022 and 23 year. Starting with the women, Sri Lanka starts their tour of Pakistan on May 24th, and they'll play 3 ODIs and 3 T20s. Then there's a tri-series that starts July 12th, which includes Ireland and Australia. And this series is comprised of 4 T20 internationals. Next, we have the Commonwealth Games of 2022, which pick up on the 25th of July, followed by Asian Games that begin on the 10th of September. Then we have the Women's T20 Asia Cup, which starts in October of 2022, followed by Ireland touring Pakistan to play 3 ODIs and 3 T20 internationals starting on the 30th of October. Then in January of 2023, Pakistani women will visit Australia, where they'll play 3 one-day internationals and 3 T20 internationals. Following the Australia tour, we'll have the Women's Under-19 World Cup that'll take place and span over January and February. We don't know the location of that yet. And lastly, we have the ICC Women's T20 World Cup that'll take place in February of 2023. Now, turning our attention to the men's team, the West Indians will be coming to Pakistan in June to play 3 one-day internationals in Rawalpindi. Then Pakistan team travels to Sri Lanka to play 2 test matches and 3 one-day internationals, and that is in July and August. And then the men's team travels to the Netherlands, where they'll play the Netherlands, and the ACC T20 Cup will also follow, where they'll play Sri Lanka. So that takes place from August through September. And then in September, Team England comes to Pakistan and they play 7 T20 internationals. And after that, we have the T20 World Cup in October, which takes place in Australia. And then in November, the English team returns to Pakistan to play 3 test matches in November and December. And finally, we get New Zealand coming to Pakistan in December and January to play 2 test matches and 3 one-day internationals during December and January of 2023. And in that same January of 2023, Pakistani men will then travel to the West Indies to play 3 T20 internationals. And lastly, in April and May of 2023, the New Zealanders will come back to Pakistan to play 5 one-day internationals and 5 T20 internationals. So lots of cricket, lots of exciting cricket coming up. We're playing the Sri Lankans, England, the West Indies, Australia, and New Zealand. We're obviously missing South Africa and India, but hopefully this Big 4 series will come through and we'll get to see Pakistan and India playing as well. And finally, to the big story of the free hit, which is Ramiz Raja, chairman PCB. As you all know, Pakistan is currently facing a bit of political turmoil. Prime Minister Imran Khan, who had appointed Ramiz Raja as the PCB chairman, is no longer the prime minister. And because it was an appointment made by the prime minister, it is widely suspected that Ramiz Raja will be asked to leave his post as chairman, replaced by someone appointed by the new Sharif government. And the one name that keeps coming up is Najm Sethi. And this situation has become so political and poisonous in a way that on social media, the hashtag resign Ramiz Raja has been trending in Pakistan. My take on this is that it would be tragic if Ramiz Raja leaves the Pakistan Cricket Board, because he's done some great things and created a lot of positive initiatives. Most recently, and this just came out last week, he had secured a couple of major and very lucrative sponsorships that were going to sponsor the Best 100 program with scholarships and education information. So that program seems to be not only underway, but secure for the next 3 years, thanks to these sponsorships. And that's great. And also recently, he talked about the under-19 T20 tournament, where under-19 players from around the world would be invited and top quality coaching will be provided for under-19 players to have globally competitive games, which has also never been done before around the world. Pakistan seems to be the first country to be doing something like that at the under-19 level. And that's thanks to Ramiz Raja and his visionary thinking. And finally, the talk about women's T20 league has also been going on, and it looks like we've been making progress toward that as well. Not to mention, the men's national team has been performing really well ever since Ramiz came back in September of 2021. And this whole movement to try to remove Ramiz Raja seems even more ridiculous, knowing that he's only been there for a few months, 4 or 5 months tops in the position, and he's had to deal with huge issues like the New Zealand team leaving the country during his first week on the job. And the way Ramiz Raja spoke out for the PCB, represented Pakistan at the table in front of all the members at the ICC, is all very commendable. So I feel Ramiz has been great for Pakistan cricket, and I think we need to keep him, and we need to try to set the politics aside, even though in Pakistan and in India, especially in these two countries, politics is very difficult to separate from sport. Now, as far as we know at the time of this recording, Ramiz Raja did issue a statement saying that he intends to stay and he does not plan to offer a resignation letter. But given the trending hashtag and the volatile political situation in Pakistan, anything can happen. And I actually feel that, unfortunately, we will end up losing Ramiz. I hope I'm wrong for the sake of Pakistan cricket, but I do see it happening. Let us know what you think about this whole situation with Ramiz Raja. And with that, our free hit comes to an end. If you love Pakistan cricket, make sure you subscribe to our channel and check us out on YouTube and all of the podcasting apps. And until next time, this is your host, Jay, signing out. Peace.